How's it going, guys? Today we are talking about Lightseekers, which is a card game, and I wanted to tell you first why I decided to do this. A little while back, Ryan had showed me the cards. He likes other card games that are similar, and I looked at it, and I've never played any kind of card game like this before, so he was introducing me to it, and the thing that caught my eye about it and why I wanted to do this was, honestly, the artwork. When I was a kid, I was really into collecting Garbage Pail Kids and like the X-Men cards, and those weren't games. Those were just, you collected the cards just because you thought the characters were cool, or with Garbage Pail Kids, like you thought they were funny, you know? When you showed me these cards, I was like, wow, this is like sort of Lord of the Rings, the Warcraft's type of, wizardry, right, and all that. And I like that kind of genre, like wizards and orcs and all that kind of stuff. And the characters that are in this game are all that kind of stuff. So the genre of this like really, really appealed to me. So I wanted to take a look at it just because of that. Then we started playing the game and I really enjoyed it. What was your beginning story with this?
So I've always been in love with collectible card games, but you're right. I started collecting like the Marvel cards back in the day and all of that. But in 1993, a major fantasy collectible card game came out,
right? And
I fell in love with it, and I loved it so much, and it was the best. And it was something throughout growing up. I was always into collectible card games, all different ones, whether it was like fantasy or it was Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever. It was great.
Right.
Then this last year at PAX, I was just walking around and I saw Lightseekers. And I just sat down and I'm like, I'll check this game out. And I just kind of fell in love with the mechanics of the game and the gameplay. And I got to play a few games and I was like, this is a really cool game. Because there's a lot of games that have been trying to capture both like the audience for children and the audience for adults.
Sure.
And, either it doesn't do enough for the kids or it doesn't do enough for the adults.
Right.
And I started playing this game and I'm like, this is surprisingly deep for a game that would be for kids. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, there's a lot going on here. There's, a lot of different types of play. There's a lot of different types of decks I could build. There's a lot of different ideas here.
While we played this, I kind of felt like this game, at least my thought of it was, this is probably somewhere in between. I feel like adults could definitely enjoy this because I was enjoying this when I played it with you. But I didn't think it was so complicated that a kid couldn't understand it, because you showed me this game and I learned it in maybe an hour.
Yeah.
So like, if it didn't take me that long to learn that, or maybe less than that, if I learned the game in that long, I don't think it's impossible for a young kid to learn it.
And I was actually super surprised at that, because like I thought, is Mike gonna like Lightseekers? Is this something he's gonna get into? I'm not sure. It's something that I got to give a try, and the fact that you did pick it up so quickly.
I wanted to give it a try because of how it looked. Like the packaging's really cool and the theme of it's really cool. But you're absolutely right. I was a little intimidated to play. I'm like, is this gonna be too complicated? And am I gonna like the gameplay? And I was kind of surprised that I did.
And I think that's a challenge for any game that's trying to get mass adoption. And I was excited when I learned more about Lightseekers and what they were doing, that they were going out to card shops and they were considering like the enthusiast gamers. There is a Diablo style hack and slash tablet game.
There is a video game, but it's not like the card game.
No, it's completely different from the card game.
Okay.
The only thing that the cards and the tablet game do together is on the sides of all the cards, there's like little markings. Mm-hmm. And the cards can actually be scanned with this like AR style thing with the camera and give you power-ups in that game.
Okay.
So
they are related a little bit.
They're related. And also, you can use that game to keep track of your collection, because when you scan cards, it shows that you have them.
Oh, that's actually really interesting, because the collectible part of it is kind of the part I'm really interested in. And I did want to say, like, initially I was talking about the Garbage Pail Kids and the X-Men cards, and I loved collecting those. And when I saw these, I was like, oh, the designs are so neat to look at. I kind of want to get all the cards, And they come in these packages, so I started to think like, oh, you can't really just collect 1 million of them because, it comes in a package. But what you were telling me is that actually you can combine decks like you can buy them in packages and combine decks, so you actually can collect cards.
So the starter decks, and these are all the starter decks we have here, they actually come with a hero that is all for that element. Like this is Dread, this is Astral, this is Tech. And it comes with a hero that is, uses cards from those elements. As you get into the booster packs, you can get item cards that allow your character to use spells that he wouldn't normally be able to use. Mm-hmm. And then there are cards that use multi-elements. So like some of the most powerful cards of the game, like Meteor Shower, use 2 sets of elements. Mm-hmm. So as you progress from the starter decks into the booster packs and you start building your own decks, you can do weird combinations and things.
So since I'm sort of a beginner to all this, and others who also might be, when you're starting out, basically like Ryan might get this Tech deck and I might get this deck, and we would just start with that. That's why they're called starter decks. But then you can go and buy other little packages, and in those there might be like 1 or 2 cards that you think are like, oh, those are pretty good, and then you can start building your own deck. And a full deck is 30 cards.
So a full deck is 30 of the action cards, 5 of the combo cards, and 1 hero. So it's 36 total cards.
Okay.
Yeah. By the time I was done playing with Mike, you were like hitting me with the combo cards.
At first I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't really. Yeah. I was playing with the is it called
with
Fire?
The mountain?
I was playing with the mountain deck, and I didn't know what I was doing at first or how to use the hero. But then as I learned how to use the hero, I was like, oh, this is how this is done. And yeah, it takes a few rounds to learn how to play, but once you do, it really gets good. And the strategy, it's all about the strategy.
Yeah, the game, much like other card games, is very much about card advantage. If you can draw more cards than your opponent and stay alive, you run a much better chance of winning than if you can't. And I noticed as I was playing against Mike, first he was like playing out his hand, running out of cards, that kind of thing.
I didn't know.
And then towards the end, he's got like all the cards in his hand, and he's playing the combo cards, and you're doing all the things. And I'm like, oh, all of a sudden we have a game here. And your characters, you may have cards that allow you to draw, but actions that you don't use during the game allow you to draw cards. So I may want to play a card and draw, or I may want to take the entire turn just to replenish my hand. And the other thing that kind of balances that out is there's no maximum hand size. So in the beginning of the game, you kind of see players building up their hands, oh, I'm going to draw 2, I'm going to draw 2, I'm going to draw 2. And then they have all these cards, and then you start seeing the plans unfold. Mm-hmm. It starts to be, okay, I'm going to play this combo, which involves me, having these symbols on the top of the card to make that combo happen. Oh, I'm going to play these buffs that allow me to take advantage of these things. And each of the different colors in the game.
For people that know and might be starting out and watching this and don't know much about this, I didn't even know what a buff was to begin with. So essentially with the buffs, and I know a lot of you guys know, but there are people that don't know. So a buff card, you lay it out, and it sits there for a while. And in this game, they turn. So that's a card that's like out there for a while you have these other cards that you might just play once. I might hit Ryan with 2 points or something like that, and then that card goes away to the discard, but the buff stays out there for a while until he either uses something that takes that buff away, or it goes out of play by spinning around.
And that's the thing that's another thing that's really cool about this game that's different from other games. Your cards have a shelf life. Your cards that are in play have a shelf life before they expire, where they turn. And as they turn, the symbol in the top right-hand corner changes. So it may be a 2 this turn. Oh, it's a 1 next turn. Oh, it's a 7 the following turn, or something like that. And that makes each turn that a card is in play different.
Another thing we should mention, though, even before you can put the buff card down, you may not even be allowed to, because there are certain symbols at the top of the cards. Like there is there's like a fire and a water droplet.
So yeah, in the mountain they have the crystal, and they have the fire, and they have The Earth.
There's
ones.
Earth. So if you want to use that buff card, which might be really good and do a great attack against Ryan, right?
Yeah.
You can't use it though unless you have all those symbols. So essentially, you're paying sort of with the cards to use that buff. But once you lay that down, you pay for it. Those cards are amazing. And then on top of that, if you have multiple buffs going on, the buffs interact with the other buffs to create madness that can really attack your opponent, your enemy, in like harshly, and can really do some damage.
So I want to talk a little bit about the different colors and kind of what makes them cool.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is the Astral starter deck, and Astral has 3 mechanics. It has solar, lunar, and gravity, and the way you play the Astral deck is by controlling either what cards you're going to draw or what cards you're going to have in your discard pile. So a solar card may be more powerful because you have a lunar card in your discard pile. Or a gravity card may make you flip a card from your deck, and if it's solar, it may have one effect, and if it's lunar, it may have another. It reminded me a lot of the Boomkin in World of Warcraft, and I thought it was a really cool way to play, because I was constantly thinking about what's on the top of my discard pile. Oh, I could play combo cards, which then allow me to reorder what is sitting on top of my deck. So, I want to have a lunar this card this turn. I want to have a solar this turn. And that's what I thought made Astral cool.
The deck that I played the most was the Mountain deck, I think. The hero in that is Dolo the Mighty. And like I said, at first I wasn't playing it right, but once I started to learn how to use the hero, I thought that this deck was fantastic because basically how it works is you can take 2 hits and you start with like 31, so I'd go down to 29, right? So I have 29 left before I'm dead. So you take those 2 hits, but then you can pick up 2 cards, but then you can just keep doing that and keep doing that. So the next thing you know, you got like all these cards in your hands and you can do so much with them. So I think this deck is fantastic. It might be my favorite.
It was really tough playing against you because you were drawing 3 cards a turn in the beginning, and then you had like 12 cards in your hand. The Mountain deck may remind you of Slide decks in another game,
right,
where you're playing like the direct damage spells, like the fire bats, which that kind of thing, and then but it also has a healing component, so it's a little different.
I know that you played with this. Would you say that this was maybe your least favorite?
No, it wasn't, because I understand the potential of it. The Nature deck is probably the opposite of the Mountain deck.
Yeah.
Because the hero in
this was all about healing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all about healing. There was so much healing, but I wasn't just healing myself.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you were healing me, and
I was healing you to do cards, but then I had like Vine Whip, like the massive damage cards too. So
That's true.
This is like the Druid deck, the Nature deck, and it's interesting because you're doing a lot of healing, and you have a lot of buffs that play like creatures in play where they deal damage. But you got to be careful because you're balancing your healing and the healing of the player with your card drawing. So it wasn't my least favorite. It was the most difficult deck to play for me.
I felt I didn't get a chance to play with that one, and I was intimidated to try that one.
I think that this is the deck that the multiplayer gamers want to use, because you could pass out healing to the guys that, hey man, don't hit me, don't mess with me because I'm gonna heal you to draw cards. Mess with him,
right?
So I think that this is the spoiler in the multiplayer.
But I'm also coming into this like not knowing I haven't played a lot of these games, but I feel like we played more of this and I got better at it, I'd want to eventually try that, but not quite when I start out.
The Dread deck. The Dread deck is all about...
I loved that one.
You like this?
I did.
Yeah, so you didn't get to play the Dread pre-constructed deck. The Dread deck you were playing was my deck.
Maybe that's why I liked it.
Yeah.
He had the boosters.
Yeah, and the coolest thing about the Dread deck was or the way I built it was I built it all with escalating combos. So my small combos that used 2 or 3 elements fed into the ones that used 3 or 4, fed into the big one that used 5. So I had like a very linear progression of the combos, because you get 5 combos per deck and they're all unique. So I made sure that they all fed into each other.
Yeah, with that deck, you're just it's all buffs basically,
And then,
for the most part, and you're just like laying out all these buffs, and it's crazy.
And then all of the buffs I had basically were built to count the buffs you had in play and magnify the effect based on how many buffs. So if you had 3 in play, it was great, but if you had 6 buffs in play, it was like crazy large effects.
And not to mention, by the way, like this is like, you know, like zombie horror like characters.
Yeah.
So like it's just an awesome deck. There's guys in here that look like Skeletor, and like it's awesome.
By the way, with the Dread deck, I don't think the deck I made was like a tournament competitive deck.
Right.
But I do think that it was a lot of fun to play because you got to have a lot of stuff in front of you and a lot of interaction, which made it cool.
I played with this deck. This is the Storm deck, and I remember. I just remember doing very well with it, but I don't remember. Do you remember what happened?
The funny thing about it was you were playing all these like
this
crabs and
I was like, here's my crab, here's my eel.
Yeah, like all the characters in the Storm deck have really funny names. They're all like funny like sea creatures and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I'm using my like bookworm to like get cards, and oh, I'm using this to heal. And every time I'm like thinking I'm gonna do something, he had like something that would stop me.
Oh, there was like a thunder slug or something like that.
Yeah, the thunder slug.
And it would always like take away his buff or something like that. And it was I feel like you were annoyed because I was like, I kept like throwing stuff down and I was preventing you from doing stuff.
Yeah, he was preventing me from doing things, but everything had like funny names. So it was bad. It was bad enough that you were getting hit by.
It was obnoxious.
It was like obnoxious. It's like here's my thunder slug. And I'm gonna,
Which is funny, but then you're like, but really, I just got screwed.
Yeah, but really, I just got screwed. I'm playing my like Death Machine 5000.
Yeah, and then here comes me with my slug.
You know, and it's like, oh, now he's drawing cards, and now he's.
And you played this one. How was that?
I played the tech deck. The tech deck is cool because it's all about like explosions and grenade launchers and technology and stuff like that. As far as gameplay, this is the deck that I dealt the most damage with.
Oh yeah,
because you saw at the end.
Is that the one where you did like 19 damage?
That was the one where I was dealing like 9 damage a turn and doing all the like this deck I had to set up.
I was dealing like 12 damage with that mountain.
You were pretty serious.
No, it was a volcano.
Yeah. It was like Heart of the Mountain or something like that.
Yeah.
With the mountain deck, you were like very like when we were playing these two decks. This was like serious business.
Because these are both like fighting. Like there's no healing really.
There's no healing. This is like he's like, I'm gonna draw a bunch of cards and then I'm gonna kill you. I really enjoyed playing Lightseekers. It's probably my favorite TCG that I've played in the last several years.
Yeah. And I'm going to be completely honest. I've never in my life played a game like this.
Right.
Like I said, I only collected cards when I was younger. I never played the card games. And being a newcomer to doing something like this, I enjoyed it. I was happy that it didn't take 2 weeks to learn it or something.
Yeah.
That's what I was scared of, is that I was going to have to play this forever to be able to do this. But like I said, I was pretty much able to learn the majority of it in about an hour. And I would play this more. Like if I had a group of... Oh, and then we also played it with another friend of ours. So it's not just a 2-player game. Like you can play it with... How many people can you play it with?
I mean, man, we used to play other games where we just have like an entire like banquet table full of people.
So I guess if everybody has a deck,
you could. I mean, they probably recommend it for like 4 or 5 or 6. But the way the rules are, you could play it with tons of people.
So I would be interested to play it with like 4 people or 5 people or whatever. So that, you know, it's cool.
And one of the things they do in the multiplayer is they do have the idea that you have a target that you're attacking and you have an enemy that's attacking you.
Your enemy is always to the right and your target's always to your left.
Yeah, so now you do have spells that you could decide where they go. So it's not rigid. But then there are other abilities that, like most buff cards, attack your target, and you know, defense cards protect you from your enemy. But it is an interesting twitch. It's an interesting twist where the fact that you do have a target you're going after, and an enemy that's going after you, affects some of the cards in the game.
Now that I know how to play the game a little bit better, I would like to. It would be great to play it with more people that kind of know how to play it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really want to play with an expert or anything like that, but like somebody around our level, you know.
Yeah, it's funny when I was at PAX and I was playing with the person, from Lightseekers that I played
that
with.
he didn't know how to play
yeah,
with.
I played like the first couple games where we're playing with the decks that they have out there, and then he was like, "Hold on."
Yeah.
And then he goes and he gets his deck out with like the sleeves on it and everything, and he's like, "Let's go."
That's
and by the way, he was playing Astral. He was playing Astral cards, and that's why I got used to getting hit with those.
Okay.
Yeah, which was cool.
Oh, and is Astral the one with the moon and the sun?
Yeah.
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 I didn't get a chance to play with that, but that out of the other ones that I didn't play with, I thought that was the most interesting. It was the most different,
Right?
Because it would be like you were gonna attack me, but you would have to, if you put down like a sun or something like that, then you had to, the other card worked in combination with that card, and depending on what one you flipped over, could hit me in different ways.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
So if I flipped over solar, it healed me.
Right.
But if I flipped over lunar, it damaged you.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And then you were using that in combination with other buffs.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Now, what's cool about that is, what if you flip over a combo card that's both? You know what it does? It does both effects.
oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Which is crazy.
Which I feel like you might have even did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's not super expensive now. Like, it's easy to get into. It's not like there's 20 years of cards that you need to find. Like,
because with some of those other card games, aren't there cards that are worth like $100,
thousands or hundreds of dollars? Yeah. Thanks to our sponsor, Lightseekers, for letting us play this.
Yeah, they sent us all these packages. These we didn't open.
Yeah, because I have the cards.
Yeah, Ryan bought them all packs. We were playing mostly with his deck.
Yeah.
So, it's a fun game. Try it out.
Yeah, check it out. Links in the description below.